is Open Line.
Well, good evening and welcome into Open Line. I'm Chuck Long and I'm particularly glad to be with you this evening. First time I've been here in a while. Had to take care of some health issues, but I did. And I feel great. It's great to be back, and I couldn't be happier than to be doing Open Line with our special guest tonight. He's one of my very favorite people. He's from one of the top law firms in the state of Tennessee. And of course, on Open Line on this edition, we're going to be asking an attorney, asking the expert, and that expert is my friend Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm. Kevin, how are you? It's so good to be back with you.
It is great to be with you. Good evening. You know, this is really a spectacular time because, you know, separation is something else. And, you know, here we are at my office and getting to talk to you, but it's a glorious time to get to see everyone. And thank you. I missed you. The real world is, Chuck, you bring a lot of life. You're a lover of life, and you bring a lot of care and concern from the community. And everybody knows it. We can see it clear. It's funny, me watching you on the screen, but I am absolutely delighted to be here tonight. I look forward to the time we can go back to the live studio, but until then, we're going to make the most of it, and I'm glad to see you.
Well, it is great to see you. And Kevin, like I say, I missed being here. I missed seeing you. I was so excited that this was going to be my first show back on the air, so I couldn't be more delighted than to be doing it with you.
Yes, 2020. It goes down in history. So we're here, June 2020. I'm glad, and I hope that we can bring some good news and some hope and some cheer to those on the callers tonight with a little direction.
Absolutely. And if you're just tuning in, we're glad that you were tuning in this evening. We've got a special edition of Open Line. Of course, Ask an Attorney, Ask the Expert. And I know every time that Kevin's on, our phones just light up. And it's a great thing to be able to ask someone like Kevin with his expertise these kinds of legal questions that a lot of times we sit at home and we don't know what to do, we don't know where to turn, so many different things. And Kevin, you're here to give your expert advice. You guys have been in business over 35 years.
Yes. And, you know, Chuck, I love to say this too. Chuck and I have talked privately. You know, when people recognize us and come up and speak, he's the kind of guy that doesn't blow you off, nor do I. And so if you see us out, feel free to come up and speak to us. You can ask me a question anytime. If you have a question that you need to talk to me, even when we're off the air, you're always welcome to call the Kennedy Law Firm. If I'm busy, there's other talented people there that could help answer your questions. I remember before I was a lawyer, I would have these questions and I probably knew the answer, but it made me feel so much better if I could discuss it. The greatest lawyers in my career, what did they do? They pondered this circumstance, because even as we discuss it, an idea pops out, an option. And that's really what we try to do, is point out these issues and give you options so it could help you and your family. So many people never have access to the lawyers. I'll tell you one interesting thing. I worked at a grocery store while I was going through the college, and that's where I first saw my first lawyer. And so it's interesting. I always thought they were really, really smart. And then when I came a lawyer, I said, those guys aren't really that smart. And now here I am 35 years later, they're real smart. So I'm glad to be with you. And there is no such thing, you've heard it said in school, as a stupid question, because there's tens of thousands of people watching that would love to have the answer. But for whatever reason, they're intimidated a little bit about calling and being on the air. Don't. That's what this is open for. And this Channel 5 helps us get this done. So I'm really delighted to be with you.
They absolutely do. And if you are tuning in for the first time, this would be a great time to give us a call. The number's right there on your screen, 737-7587. That's 737-7587. You call, and as Kevin said, there is no stupid question. And, you know, Kevin, one of the things I was also thinking about is, you know, the many times you and I have done this show, one of the things that always stands out with me is when you say knowledge is power. I mean, that says a lot.
I'll tell it again.
It does.
It is so true. I remember John Carney is our district attorney here in the 19th Judicial District. He is a great man. He and I went to law school together. We rode in the car. And so when we were aspiring to become lawyers, we used to say that very thing. So that's it. Knowledge is power. Get all the knowledge you can.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's so many areas, too, that I know people calling in. I was kind of making a list as I got on before we went on the air tonight. And like I said, for years of doing this show, some of the things, and people just continually, and they had the questions about these same areas, whether it's criminal law or personal injury, if you're injured in a car wreck, on the job, family law, bankruptcy, estates, will planning, nursing home care, lost job, going up against the insurance company or the hospital. This is the place that you can ask those questions. So we're going to go right to the phone lines right now, Kevin. If that's good with you, we're going to start the show off.
That's good with me.
All right, caller, you are on the line. What is your question for Kevin?
Am I on the line?
Yes, you are. Go ahead with your question, caller.
You may not want to answer this question, but my question is, if my mother is dying of COVID, does a hospital have the right to keep me away from her?
All right, Kevin.
Yeah, it's a great question. And believe me, you're not the only one. We have been inundated with calls all over with that same problem. It gets down to a policy of the healthcare providers. I would submit to you when you signed in that you agreed to follow the rules and regulations of that hospital administrator. If they deem that it's necessary to keep these people out, the only choice you have is to attempt to file in the Chancery Court of your county. You can ask for a restraining order or ask for an order that would allow you to be in there. As a general rule, I'm going to tell you they'll say, no, it's because of public safety that we won't do that. So we've had all these calls. This is a great time that when we're talking, they say, but Kevin, my mother doesn't have her will. And many have allowed them to roll outside, put on the mask, and do their wills, their powers of attorney, and things they wish they had gotten done beforehand. This is a great time to do that. So every case is different. Every organization is different. And it all depends on what we can do. I had somebody ask me, well, what's right and what's wrong? It all depends on what side you're on. There's a great argument to be made that you have a right to go in there and be with your family member. They have a great argument on their side to say it's too dangerous for the staff and the other residents. That's a judge's call.
All right, and Kevin, I know you're getting a lot of questions about that, and some that are kind of related is if someone has to go to the emergency room, not for necessarily COVID, but for a different situation, but the people that come there with them, whether it's a spouse or a family member, they're rarely allowed into that emergency room.
That's right. And right now in the courts, they're not allowing all the people to go into the court. So, you know, we're wrestling with witnesses and they say, well, you're not on this list. You can't come in. So they hold it back. And again, the court system is in the same zone. They'll continue. We might give you Zoom. We might be overloaded. We may have to continue. You just have to deal with, and who really controls? The judges and the Supreme Court. And when the Supreme Court ruled everything shut down, by order of the Supreme Court, we've got to do what the court system says. But on that circumstance, if it was life and death, then I certainly would pursue talking to a lawyer, find out what our options are, and let's move for that. If we get a little glimmer of hope, we must move then.
All right, that is exactly right. Okay, we are going back to the lines right now. And by the way, if you are just tuning in, I urge you to get on the line with us as quickly as possible so that we can get to as many of the questions as we can during this hour. The number's right there on your screen, 737-7587-737+. Going to the lines right now. Cecilia, we're glad that you're joining us this evening. What is your question or comment for Kevin?
Yes.
Yes, Cecilia, you're on the air. Do you have a question for Kevin?
Yes, I do. Good evening.
Good evening.
My husband and I seek the company to do a sunroom for our home. It's been 3 years in August. We did obtain a lawyer, but we're not getting any satisfaction or nothing. Now the COVID-19 came about, so we can't get back into the court system right now. But we're not feeling very good with the attorney that we have. What would be the appropriate next step to do just to obtain our money back off the project which the company did not complete?
Okay, thanks for the question, Cecilia.
We see people everywhere for whatever reason. People don't fulfill their contracts that they say, you know, I heard it said, Chuck, they come back and they say, hey, get it in writing. Well, guess what? You can get all the contracts in writing and people still won't do what they said they were supposed to. Then you have to go to the courts. Now, this lady, you've already hired a lawyer. I would say a good suggestion would be make an appointment immediately with the lawyer, and you might have some family member go with you. So 2 of you can hear and ask the questions and say, hey, what is the status of our case? Here's what I teach everyone. Ask the who, what, when, where, and how. If you get those answers, you've got a pretty good idea. When are we supposed to go to court? How is this going to run? Who is involved? And what I always like to do is preparation, preparation, preparation. So when you prepare yourself to go talk to your lawyer, you're helping prepare them. Lawyers are really busy. Now, if you got one and he lost interest, many times people have to change lawyers. So that may be something. The lawyer could come down with COVID, have family members, and it just wasn't able to work. We're hearing every day. People say, I'd love to see my lawyer. I can only talk to him through email. I can't even get to see them. So I know it's frustrating, but what would a reasonable person do under those circumstances? And if that's the case, sometimes you have to change gears.
All right, great advice. As you say, it's all about preparation. All right, back to the lines right now. We are going to the lines with Joe. Joe, we're glad that you've joined us this evening. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Yes. Can anybody draw up a simple will for they want to leave somebody their house?
Yeah. In the state of Tennessee, we can honor a holographic will. What that means, that a person can write out on a piece of paper in their own handwriting and sign it in their name, and that would be valid inside the state of Tennessee. Remember, there's always room for an attack for a will contest, but it's better to have it than not have it. And so that's where I am, and that's what I would tell. I want everyone to get a lawyer, get it done, get the witnesses, have it executed, and we increase the odds that if there was ever an attack, we will dominate that attack. But if I were in that situation and there were no times left, we could sit down and we could go and publish that and move forward.
All right, good to know. We appreciate that question and that call, Joe. We have a lot of you on the line with us. What we're going to do right now is take a short break, but stay on the line with us. If you have one of those questions or comments, make sure you get on the line with us. You're watching Open Line. We'll be right back.